If you want to understand real survival, not the fantasy version sold in gear catalogues, you have to look at sieges. Sieges were not short emergencies. They were slow, grinding tests of planning, discipline and human psychology that lasted months or even years. Cities were cut off from food, water, trade, medicine and hope. No cavalry was coming, no resupply trucks were on the way. What survived inside those walls were not armies with superior weapons, but civilians who understood systems. Ancient people had no electricity, no refrigeration, no antibiotics, and no modern logistics, yet some cities outlasted forces many times their size. The strategies they used were not clever tricks. They were deeply practical methods built around food control, water security, waste management, morale, and deception. Those same pressures exist today during blackouts, natural disasters, long-term unrest, and infrastructure collapse. Once you understand how ancient cities endured sieges, modern survival suddenly becomes clearer and far less romantic. How layered food systems kept cities alive when supply lines were severed. Ancient cities that survived sieges never relied on a single food source. Grain stores alone were never enough. Archaeological records from places like Rome, Jerusalem and Constantinople show layered food systems that combined stored grain, preserved foods, small livestock, rooftop gardens and emergency rations. Grain was protected like currency and rationed early, not when panic began. Olive oil, dried legumes, salted fish and fermented foods filled the gaps. Livestock such as chickens, pigeons and goats were kept within city walls because they converted scraps into protein. In modern terms, this teaches diversification. A pantry full of rice is not resilience. Real resilience means dry goods, preserved fats, protein sources and something that can regenerate, even if it's as simple as container gardening or raising small animals where legal. The ancient rule was simple. Eat the renewable sources first and guard the irreplaceable ones for last. Why water control mattered more than weapons during prolonged blockades. Cities fell faster from thirst than from swords. The most successful ancient fortresses were built around water access, not walls. Jerusalem tunneled water from distant springs. Constantinople maintained massive cistern systems that could supply the population for months. Some cities even poisoned or redirected water sources outside the walls to deny attackers the same resource. For modern survival, this reinforces a hard truth. Municipal water is a single point of failure. Ancient cities assumed water would be targeted and planned accordingly. Practical application today means having multiple water sources and knowing how to collect, store and purify water long-term. Rain capture, gravity-fed storage and basic filtration methods are not prepper fantasies. They are siege lessons that kept entire civilizations alive. How waste management quietly decided who lived and who died. One of the least discussed siege strategies was waste control. Cities that failed to manage human waste during sieges collapsed from disease before food ran out. Successful cities enforced strict sanitation rules even during starvation. Latrines were placed downhill from living areas. Waste was composted, burned or sealed away. In some cases, human waste was used to fertilize internal gardens. The modern takeaway is uncomfortable but critical. Sanitation is survival. During extended outages or disasters, disease spreads faster than violence. Knowing how to isolate waste, maintain hygiene with limited water, and prevent contamination is not optional. Ancient people survived because they treated waste as seriously as food. How controlled deception preserved morale and delayed collapse. You know, ancient defenders understood psychology better than many modern planners. Cities under siege often exaggerated their strength. Food was displayed publicly even when rations were tight. Sometimes bread was even thrown over walls to suggest abundance. Soldiers rotated visibly to create the illusion of endless manpower. Inside the city, leaders controlled rumours aggressively. Panic was treated as an enemy asset. The lesson here is about information discipline. In modern crises, misinformation spreads faster than hunger. Survival depends on managing what people believe, including yourself. So, practical application means rationing information, avoiding constant exposure to panic-driven media, and maintaining routines that signal stability even when conditions worsen. Let's talk about how space was reorganized to stretch resources and, well, maintain order. Sieges forced cities to rethink space entirely. Public buildings, for example, became storage facilities. Homes were consolidated and workshops were repurposed to produce tools, repair equipment, and preserve food. Truly, nothing remained idle. This kind of adaptability is honestly directly relevant today. During prolonged disruptions, unused space just becomes wasted potential. A spare room can become storage, a balcony can become a growing area, and a garage can become a workshop. Ancient survival was all about turning every single square metre into a function that supported endurance. So, why did discipline matter more than bravery in the long run? Well, ancient accounts consistently show that undisciplined cities fell fastest. Hoarding, theft and violence inside the walls destroyed trust and efficiency. The cities that succeeded enforced rationing early and punished internal chaos. Well, quite harshly. This is a bit uncomfortable to modern ears, but the principle remains. Survival is, above all, cooperative. Households that plan, share skills and coordinate outlast those that act independently. In practical terms, this means family plans, neighbourhood coordination, and clear roles before crisis hits, not during it. Now, how do these ancient siege lessons translate directly to modern resilience? The brilliance of ancient siege survival lies in its realism. No technology saved them, systems did. Food diversity, water redundancy, sanitation discipline, psychological control, spatial efficiency, and social order were, in fact, the real defences. You don't need to live behind stone walls to apply these lessons. Long power outages, supply chain disruptions, extreme weather, and civil instability all create siege-like conditions. Those who prepare like ancient cities endure, and those who rely on convenience collapse quickly. If you value this kind of grounded, historically proven survival knowledge, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share this video with others who care about real preparedness, and, well, stay connected. The past has already solved many of the problems we're about to face again.